Hello and welcome to Apex Hours. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from to all of you from whichever part of the world you're joining. Thank you for joining us on a holiday on a Saturday. It's good to see some great numbers in spite of it being the Independence Day for the United States of America, and we really have. It's good to know that there are a lot of people who have joined us on this learning journey. So welcome you all to Apex Hours. And a thank you note to Amit and of course the founder and the whole and soul behind Apex Arts channel for running this at such a reputed level and we having continuing the standards that Apex Arts have set. So thank you Amit for doing all the great work that you've been doing, and also thank you for this opportunity that you've given us. A third thank you as well to for one of the landmark benchmark events, the virtual dreaming, which was concluded recently. So I would also want to take this opportunity to thank you, Amit, Jitendra sir, and Mr. Rakesh for I think having doing a 24-hour online session. It's one of its kind, and I think it was a huge success in how it was perceived around the world. So yeah, it's a lot of thank yous to start with, and let's get into the session. But before we get there, I think we have another pit stop. That's a brief about myself. My name is Roshan Kotla. I've been working with Salesforce ecosystem with the Salesforce ecosystem for past 10 years, or more than 10 years, I should say. As started as a developer, have played multiple roles: consultant, architect, and I've also started my own firm, which is just a year old. So yes, I can also call myself an entrepreneur. Apart from that, I've also been actively involved with the Trailblazer community. I lead the Hyderabad developer group, which is the third largest in terms of the numbers. And we've been doing some great events, great sessions. I've had the honor of being invited to a lot of other events that are ongoing across the country and the world. So that's a bit. Those are my handles, Twitter handle and the LinkedIn channel. So if in case you want to reach out for whatever kind of question that we might get through these sessions, please feel free to do so. All right. So after having spent more than a couple of minutes on the introduction and the gratitude that we wanted to express, let's look at what we want to learn today. We said it's all about field service lightning, but let me tell you, when we say all, field service lightning is really deep, and it does take a lot of effort and time to just deep dive, look at all the options, understand what it is, and its architecture and all the capabilities. So want to just take a moment to uh, probably set the expectation right for this session, which is we are not going to become an expert in an hour, which will be injustice to all the people who have spent hours, days, and hours of hard work to become an expert. But yes, this is a session which will definitely be helpful for you to understand what is this application about, what are some basic elements of this, how can we do a quick setup of this application and see it's working. So we're going to look at that through this session, and it is for anybody who understands the basics of Salesforce, the object. I mean, understands what's an object, what's how to navigate around the application, understands what a package is, and maybe if you also have a little bit understanding of Service Cloud, you will also you'll hear some familiar objects being mentioned or being referred to in our session. So yeah, that's the expectation, that's the audience that we're looking at. I hope you find it useful. What is field service lightning? Now, before I mean, yeah, there are a lot of definitions and use cases that we can talk about. But before we talk about any of those, let's actually take an example of an organization who's using Salesforce for for its operations, or using field service lightning, or decides to use field service lightning, and we'll see how they can get benefited through this application. We'll take some examples there. So It could be any, I mean, we can talk about an electronics company, it could be a communications company, it could be a network company, and so many. Uh, let's take an example of a network company, a network provider, such as, I mean, a telecommunication provider, uh, who have different services and products to offer in terms of fiber net, uh, mobile products, and a wide range of that. And if they decide to use this, or why would they use this application in the first place? Now, how can they get benefited? So, when we talk about, if I talk about an example of the fiber net service, as a customer, they would get requests, or the salespeople would have closed deals of new fiber net connections, and they would need their workforce, or they would need their team to work together to make sure that the the fiber net connection is successfully established and customer is good to go, ready to start using their services. So before that happens, obviously in the backend there's a lot of work which is assigning it to people, trying to get the all the details of the customer. There may be some logistic details of address and uh, the other networks that are already available in that building, uh, in that street, or whatever is required for this organization to lay down a new fiber net connection. I think that's where they would start with, and then maybe they identify the right set of people who should be assigned this work. And those people will have to be notified. They'll pick up their works. They'll have to look at the calendar, uh, look at what appointments a customer has given for them to go and do the check and connectivity and any kind of setup that they need to do. So all of this is through a process and through various people that are involved here. We'll understand how these responsibilities are divided, but without getting into those details, in short, this field service lightning application can help a company like this, or any company like this, who are trying to provide services or product deliveries, or product installations, product repairs, all of these kinds, through this application in an efficient way. We'll see how what those efficiencies are, but in an efficient way, and in a faster time. So when we say efficient, obviously it's smart way of doing things, assigning right tasks to right people at right time. In short, is probably the USP of this application. All right, so that's like a not so copybook definition, but that's what it is. And like I was saying, it is an application which is trying to do all of this in the best way possible, which obviously includes the customers, the ones who are being serviced here, the workforce who are part of this entire process with various roles, various responsibilities, and of course the products or the services that are being delivered to the client. So we're trying to put all of them together through this application and see how best, not see how it's best, but yeah, this is what it provides. I should put it that way. This is what this application provides in terms of it's one of the primary benefits. And just a maybe brief deviation there. So when we talk about Salesforce, we are always talking about customer centric and how we can continuously improve the customer service or anything which is directly impacting customer. But this particular application is of course benefiting the customer in terms of how they get their response or their products or services get delivered faster. But it's a little beyond that. It's also going to make job very much easier for the other people in the workforce. We'll see who those people are, but it's going to make all of those people's job easier and faster as well. Of course, products are something which is the common point for everybody, but that's an extension or one of the good things about this application. And as I talk about people who are part of this workforce, these are the different personas that are through this process dividing their responsibilities, working on a lot of areas. Let's look at who they are and what they do. Uh, and by the way, it's also an official, how do I say, official designation of the roles by Field Service Lightning or by Salesforce themselves. So these names are not generic, or these names may sound generic, but they are there are some these are actual keywords that are being used by the field service lightning application in Salesforce. The first ones are admin status. Of course, the heart of the any application that we set up in Salesforce. Most of us are administrators, developers, consultants, but we all have those administrative abilities. So yes, administrators are the people who are going to set up this application, do all the required configurations, set up the required data, make sure that the rest of the workforce can make use of this application in the best way possible. So yes, we'll look at some brief abilities that they have, but yes, there are a big list or a huge list of I would say there is a good list of setup options that the administrators have. We'll have a brief, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about there. Maybe we'll not be able to talk all of that as I already mentioned. Then comes the second level, or or rather not second actually. These are the first people in the process as such. The service agents and dispatchers. So service agents are people who are talking to people, talking to customers, to be specific. They are talking to customers, understanding what product what product needs service, or what service needs repair, and things like those, collecting all the information that they can, putting that in the system, and then pass it on to the dispatcher, so the dispatchers can look at assigning it to the right set of people based on certain factors that we'll talk about. And they are the next level. They are the next ones in this process, which who are called as field service agents. And they're not the next ones, but they are the you know in the process, the last people to use this application. These are people who are also using a version or a flavor of the field service lightning app that is there, and getting certain benefits out of this to ensure that they can manage and deliver better whatever work is assigned to them. So it's obviously always field service agents get work assigned through dispatchers, and but dispatchers can always see what's happening. They can keep a track of things, and of course, this is all being done for the customers. So yes, it's imperative, or it's customers the right hand side that we see are the ones who are the most important ones being affected. But yeah, of course, they don't have a version of field service lightning app on their devices to use. So, yeah, but it's still there, so that's why I put it. A brief of what I just mentioned, those four roles, brief responsibilities. This is how the actual keywords or roles are divided in this application. The admin, as I already said, is the one who's setting up the application, creating all the appropriate data for the others to use. The service agent is the one talking to the customer, logging the work order, logging the case, taking the right appointments, and then dispatchers take the responsibility of giving it to the right people, making sure that it's not making sure, but keeping a track of things, and looking at the availability, resource availability, looking at a lot of factors before it can be assigned to the right people. And then the field agents are those people who are on the field, who are actually gonna finish the job. But the best part is the application that they have has pretty much everything on their device. They have the customer information, they have the job information, they have the product information. They can request for more information. So we'll also look at what capabilities does this app provide to a field agent to make their work easier. So, just a quick summary before we move to the next section. This app is for all of these people that we talked about just now, with a variety of features that are available for making their job easier through this process. And talking of process, what is the process? A typical field service process. Here it is. A work order script. I think by now you can see that we are getting into a mode of how and why are they using it. So it's creating a work order, getting an appointment booked with the customer, and also looking at what is the right skill, what are the parts required to finish that job. Then the assignment happens to an agent. It's a field agent that we're talking about, based on this skill and availability and the geographical location. So there's a set of factors there. The technician, once they start owning it, they go ahead, work on it. If they need any more information in collaboration, they have all those capabilities. finish the job, and they can actually mark it to completion, or let the agents know about the completed status. This is a very brief process, a typical process for a work order. Now, uh, we'll take a pause here and go back to our example of how and where is it, what is the significance of this application one more time, now that we've understood the roles. When we talk about a new installation of a fiber net, maybe the work can be divided as some, maybe a work order being raised for an installation, and as part of that there's a work order created. Skills could be the cable installation, router installation. Maybe there is a need to also dig up the street, because it's probably the first time that this fiber net is being laid in that particular area or that particular street. So all of these are part of the work, and it needs to it needs to be assigned to the right people at the right time of their, looking at their availability, for them to take this work, get this work assigned, uh, and start working on it. When it goes to that particular agent, so we talk about a couple of people who are assigned this job because they have different skills. Maybe one person has the skill of doing the cable installation, the other guy is going to do the router installation, for example. Now, once they have it on their device or on their application in their queue of saying, okay, this is the job that they need to do, they don't have to talk to anybody. They can just look at their application. It also gives them the feature of knowing the address, exact address of the customer, so they don't have to call anybody, or even go out of the application to any kind of maps application. It's closely integrated with Google Maps, where you can use this FSL app with maps to actually navigate to the customer location, and all of this is very tightly integrated. So it can be tracked, and people know what's happening, agents know what's happening, all of this. So that example is where those people have this ability of using this device and taking it to completion. How can it help us improve? I think we are already talking about improvement here, but before we talk about improvement, this is the typical process. This is the typical set of things that they do. But we've not yet talked about the specifics of the of this particular application. So we want to look at what are some key features, and how those features are applicable to each of these roles. So of course, there is a bigger list of features. I've tried to take this or consolidate this. If you, but yes, the conditions apply here are. There's a bigger list that you would want to check out on the Salesforce website. Yes, so it's talking about tools. You can better manage. You can schedule. You have your mobile workforce, which is meaning that there is a good mobile application that can do a lot of work for us. It can improve the resolution probability or time as well, because they have so much data on their devices. They have the option of collaborating with agents, other workers, managers, to get whatever they need for a faster and better resolution of their works. In terms of assignment, which the dispatchers are going to do, there are a bunch of options how you can have organization policies, or different kinds of policies that you can use along with different schedules, and use them all intelligently and smartly to assign it. So yeah, there are a lot of, I mean, if somebody is interested in deeper understanding this, there are algorithms. I mean, yeah, those algorithms are not open, but you would see that there are smarter ways of assigning, in short. You know, the power of Einstein. Yes, you can use knowledge. I mean, you can use knowledge articles and chatter, and put them together. You have suggestions or recommendations based on which where the artificial intelligence platform kicks in to the field service lightning application, right? And end of the day, your managers and dispatchers and everybody who's on the back end would have a good visibility, like I already mentioned, and a good ability to show what's happening with what customer, what agent, and everything. So all of this is done through various versions or various applications. On desktop, you would see a couple of applications which are field service admin and field service. There are two flavors that are used. We'll see who uses what. And then there's a mobile version which is primarily for the field agents, which they have to download like any other mobile application from Play Store or App Store, whatever phones they use. So The gone are the days when you're talking about carrying a dedicated devices for your organization just to install this. All right, so I mean that's something which you should keep in mind when you're talking about when you're trying to set this up. Understand that you have multiple versions, and we are not showing the detailed installation steps, but that's something which I think trailer is also very helpful with in terms of the setup of these applications. Now let's look at what features are applicable for which personas, as we just mentioned that we wanted to know. The first one is admin. Admin can set up the operating hours, the skills, the any other appointment requirements such as the policies. They will also decide which users are. I mean, not decide, but they can use permission sets to decide who's the agent here, who's the dispatcher, who's the field or the mobile workforce. Uh, Give access, revoke access, define territories, their timings, everything. So all of that is part of. So the point is, there are too many options here that an admin can use to get this started. Then comes the service agent. Service agent is, as we all know, if you talk about Service Cloud, these are people who are using the case management or primarily the case. They are people who are logging the cases, talking to the customers. So they collect work orders slash cases. They can also assign jobs. They can collect or they collect actually all the information, and either manually or automatically uh, can provide the parts information to to the field agents. We'll see how that's done. We'll see how that's done. So we'll definitely have a demonstration where we're gonna see how all of this is done. But yes, agents are people who are collecting all of this and providing it to the field agents. Of course, this is still desktop version that we're talking about. Uh, then the dispatchers. The dispatchers have a dedicated console like agents have the service console, which most of you might be aware of. Dispatcher have a dispatcher console, which is used to look at the availability of the resources, look at their current work. They can also see their current locations. They can schedule some actions. So it's basically dispatcher is more of looking after the workforce management and not specific. I mean, they are looking at the task, but they are looking at the availability, appointments, their vacation times, their break times, pretty much all of that. So that's what dispatchers get as an advantage from this application. And lastly, the field technicians. So as we already discussed just a little while ago, they have access to a huge amount of information, or quite enough information for them to go ahead, finish the job faster, or get the required inputs in a faster manner. As you can see on this slide, I'll not read that through, but customer info, product information, knowledge articles, they can have chat or collaboration through that mobile application. They can request for, they can actually check the inventory. So sometimes it happens that these guys, when they come here for installation and they realize that they've got one router, but they also might need an additional adapter or something of that sort, and they want to quickly check if that's available and if that can be requested or something like that. So they can use the same application, ask for that extra. They can actually check the inventory, ask for that extra part. Of course, they'll have to still go and get it, but it's in one place. So they don't have to make a note or call somebody, go next day and do all of this, and then realize, oh, it's not in stock. They can check the inventory right away, request for it, maybe have another appointment to schedule and come back. But they have information to all of this. And of course, when we talk about a mobile application, they have also the typical push notifications that gives them a lot of uh, reminders or any kind of notification that's happening or relevant to their appointments and the work orders that they're working on. So that's with the briefly with what features are there and how they're helpful for these four personas in a field service application or in this process. Now we want to look at a little technical look at the same aspects or how these are handled technically through the data model or the object model as we call it. Yes, as I said again in the beginning, there are so many objects that we will not be able to understand all of them through in this session, but we have picked up some important or key objects that we think are useful and understandable for someone to start setting this up and using this on their developer editions. Sure, this is how it looks. On the right hand side, as you can see, there are some already existing objects which you might have heard of. Then there are some objects which are more for workforce, which is managing the workforce. Territory and scheduling objects, self-explanatory. You can see it's all about which area, what time. Then they're also linked to which person and things like that. And all of this, the central one, the green one, you see, is linked to the service appointment. And you will see why it's so important, because appointment is what is taken by the agent from not from the, but they talk to the customer and take an appointment. Agents take an appointment. And then the same appointment is passed on to the agent, the field agent, who's going to take these appointment details and look at all the details like the work order, as you can see. So work order is linked to a service appointment, right? Work order also has got a lot of other information about customers, which we have not put in this picture, but yes, it's not a standalone. Work order is actually a child of case object, and work order has got information of what product or asset this work order is about, which contact, which account. So all those bunch of details that are there. Once we have a service appointment, on the right hand side you see there's this assign resource, which is indirectly linked to the user record, which means a service appointment through this object is linked to a user. This user is is actually the field agent. And on the left hand side bottom, those four brown or yellow colored objects that you see, service territory, the territory members, time slot and hours, these put together are objects which determine. So we're going to actually read through those or go through these objects in our next slides, but this is the brief of it. That's why service appointment is important. That's why those resources are important. And then it's definitely important to know what are the working hours for this territory and for these members. So only when we put all of them together, things fall into place and their intelligence and smartness of the application kicks in. So a few of those objects, as I said, work order is the starting object. That's where, of course, it starts with case, but then work order is where we start putting in details, and work type is linked to work order. Work type is an integral or another important object, because it can hold a template, or it can hold a set of skills and time and products that are required for a kind of job. So in our example, we talked about 5-minute installation. So maybe router installation needs a typical first time router installation needs this skill, which is router installation. Time is probably a couple of hours, and products required are probably a router and maybe 1 meter cable, right? So these all are combined and put in under a work type, and they're very useful because, as I've written it here, these when linked to work order do a certain amount of automation to automatically assign a skill and time and products to the appointment that is being created. So going back, you see that appointment which is linked to the work order, because the work order is linked to a work type, and work type has got its predefined skills and the duration and what products are required to get this job done. Those are actually passed on to the service appointment, as you can see here. It's not in the object model, but that's how it gets linked to the service appointment. So it's very important how this is set up. Work type has got skills. Skills, as you all understand, normally are different kinds of skills. They map to resources, and then they are used for the right assignment. Territories are geographical territories. So these are actually specific addresses that are used, and it is also it also plays a role in how we pick up our assignment or do our assignment. So territories are also assigned to people, because for a given region you have a set of people that are going to that are available, in short, in a given amount of time. And talking about time, you can see operating hours, and operating hours tell us what time is, what are the work timings. We'll see this in our demonstration. So we don't want to just read through them. Service issues are people. We already talked about it. Operating hours is when they're available. Product requests, like we said, on a work order, on a service appointment, actually on a work order, we want to put what are the products that we need to finish this job. And when at the end of the job completion, you would actually see the products consumed. So it's actually related list. It's an object. It's a junction object for products and work order. But uh, this object is used by heavily by agents, I would say, because this is where they put their requests and then whatever products they're consuming. So as you would have seen it in a lot of jobs. So even if it slightly changing the example, if you have a carpenter, he probably, when you book a job online, he probably would land up with a bunch of potentially required tools for that job to be completed. They are probably product requests. But when you finish them, when he finishes the job, he probably updates only two of them in the job list and then gets a go from you, and then you only pay for those two, required consumed products for the job to be done. So products consumed is that part of, or that object which holds that information. And a couple of last ones, the appointments and the reports. Appointment, as we said, it's the central one, and holds a lot of this information together. And these appointments are what are assigned to the field agents. And report template. So this is the end report. So again, when these people who are visiting the customer location, when they finish the job, if I go back 15 years in time, they will probably have come with a job sheet or something where you pull out your pen, make a signature, and then pay them in cash. But fast forward 15 years or 20 years, now it's more normal that you are given a device and you just use your finger to put a signature, or or probably they just email it to you, the entire job card, or the work that has been done, the amount of time, the money that is spent on it, everything. So it's a report of that entire service, which is handled through a template. We'll see how the template looks like. But yeah, this is more or less an object, but it's slightly a tricky object. It's not a straightforward object, but it's an important one. Lastly, timesheets. Timesheets again are for something for more. I mean, more for field service agents, because we want to really know. As I think it's also, I was talking to somebody about this. We all are in the IT industry, and we know the importance of timesheets. We have to make sure the times end of the day the timesheets are filled in. Because that's what determines what work we have done, and how much time we have spent for what kind of job. Right. So with that, we have discussed some key objects and their significance, the data model, some key features, some key personas, and without waiting further, there are just a couple of other things that I want to talk about. We want to jump into the demonstration. And before we go to the demo, we want to look at, just quickly for you to know that it's definitely a paid application, but the good news is it's still available in developer edition. Of course, it will be tough it will be tough for us to replicate all the four roles. So yes, even in our demonstration, we may not be able to have an admin or an agent and a dispatcher and then a field agent. We may not have all of that. We'll show you as one bunch to see how it looks like. But yeah, in short, it's there on developer edition. So we are all set after this session to try our try hard luck at it, I would say. This is how it looks like, even if you decide not to set it up. But at least this is a sneak peek of one of those many screens. This is the dispatcher console. You all have seen most of you have seen the service console. But yeah, so I've just put one snapshot of how it looks like. And to brief you through this, you can see all the different agents, field agents on the right hand side, along with their territories like Los Angeles. There are so many people there. And then against those names, you have a day and their availabilities, their break times, right? And those are different appointments under different statuses, which are through the colors identified and have different statuses maintained. So we'll see one of those examples, but of course on our screen we'll only have one agent because of our developer edition limitations. And then the mobile version. So yeah, this looks like any other mobile application. I've tried to put some screenshots. If you decide not to look at the demo, or before we look at the demo, so without you having installed, this is how it looked like. So the left hand side is where you can see the service appointments that are assigned to you. You can click on them, get some more details. As you can see, there is also a map here, so there are features which you can use to navigate to the location, as I already mentioned past. So yeah, pretty much the service appointment details. You see this driving directions. You can just use this driving directions, and it's as simple as that. There are a lot of other options like products consumed, the details about product, about the work order, the customer, anything that as a field agent I want to know. It's all right here, and there are a bunch of actions that you can do. You see this show actions. We see in the demonstration how we can create new contacts, or a bunch of information that we uh, can do it through this mobile application. So that's how it's going to look like. Let's jump into the demo with I think we still have good amount of time to go through the demonstration. So yeah, let's jump on to the demonstration. But yeah, before we do so, I'll probably have to just switch my screen, come back. All right, so we are set for the demo. We've got the setup as you all. This is the most. I think we all spend our entire day on the screen. But yeah, very quickly once you've you start this, the first thing you do is field service settings, and you are gonna see that this is probably disabled on your org, and enable it. And when you enable it, you will see a bunch of other options as well. See some basic options. You don't have to worry much about them when you're starting. They're pretty much preset or predetermined. Knowledge search based on certain fields. The due date is set to a particular date automatically. Things like those. And then when you save this, you can go to a bunch of other settings, which is your mobile settings, your field service settings, which I've all seen. Service report. I was talking about a report where you could, this is the report that at the end of the job completion, you want to see this. For example, if I'm talking about this one, it's more or less like a layout. It still has an admin, so it's very much a classic layout where you could see what account, what is the address, who was the owner, work details, the asset, any line items if you have, the total cost, the material used, the signature of the customer. I was talking about how it used to be a physical signature that you used to give, in-person signature, but now it is all part of. This is this. It creates an automatic PDF using this template, and whenever you want to change that or you want to create more, this is the place for you to check that out. You also have timesheet settings. Not used timesheet settings in this brief demo that we're going to see. The field service settings is, I think, one basic thing you definitely need. All the other ones are optional ones for you. So let's go see as an admin. The first one is, like I mentioned again during our discussion of different versions or different flavors. After the setup, after the enabling this, you also have to install a managed package from App Exchange. So that's why you get two applications. So the one is field service admin, which is used by the first persona, which is the admin, to set this up right for the entire process to work properly. So yes, you see a bunch of objects there. I'll have to tell you this. I'm an admin, and I will not be able to log in as a dispatcher, as an agent, as an admin, because I'm set up as an admin, and it'll be too time taking for us to switch profiles. So we're going to showcase those abilities, those features, without uh, logging in as different users. So yeah, if you see those non-required options, that would be reasonable. But when you come to the admin application, this is the most, this is the key part here. The field service settings tab that you see. Okay, and you wait. All right, so we have seen the screenshot on our slides as well. You see a bunch of options. All of them are expandable, and there are quite a few options. And I repeat, this in itself can be a mini session of how you can use all of these options to take the setup to the next level. But for today, you can still see this. There are permission sets that are required. All of this admin, agent, all these roles that I talked about is controlled through the permission set. You also have a couple of permission sets for the community users, for them to, you can set this up in a way that community users can also create work orders and potential dispatch as well. Coming back to this, yes, you could use this guided setup if you are new. Of course, you all are new to this. What's happening? Okay, yeah, you gotta wait. Okay, once you go there, it's giving you a quick setup options there for territories, for work type, for skills, for service, so, I mean, bunch of them. But not is everything required for a start for starters? Maybe not. So yes, for starters, we can say these are the people. We've assigned the right permissions to them, right licenses to them. So John Cena is our field agent. That's what we call him. And he's in this service territory for Hyderabad. He's active. He cannot have more than one active. He's got both mobile and the desktop licenses to use. If you talk about dispatcher and agents in terms of users, I'm set up as dispatcher and the agent, where I could use certain features there. Work type and skill, yeah, these are some preset. I mean, not preset. I've created those for the demonstration. You could also just search for them if you have a lot of them, or you can just, you know, and add it from here. Don't have to add it now, but you could add those things from here. Scheduling policies, territories. Yeah, territories we've used Hyderabad. We're not using any specific one. They are existing scheduling policies that we're using. So you would see that we're using customer first scheduling policy, but there's not a lot of customization that we've done for that. So you can also you can actually skip this for later. You can use this, but this is where the optimization comes into picture of how the smartness of system comes in. All right, so we could use this, or you could always go back to the traditional way of setting things up, of setting up a resource by just going into this layout. We are uncomfortable. We can see this is the name of the user. This is the name of the service resource, who is again linked to a user record, as you would have noticed in the data model that we discussed. He's active. His resource type. We also have got the skill setup for this person. We've got service territories that is part of, and a bunch of other things where we don't want to go. Okay, so that's the resource. Then you also have operating hours. Right now we are using again the base calendar, which is just 9 to 5. As you can see here, you can create your own calendars, your own time slots. All of that is admin. So that's what we said, right? As admin, you set up the working hours, the resource types, the work types. And talking of work types, that's the most important one, and would need your more attention here. We're going to look at the router installation, going with our example of a fiber installation. So work type is a combination of this a particular type of work needing what skill set, how much amount of time, what products, and what calendar is it being used, because it's also linked. So it's linked to basically multiple things. If you see this, we've said we need one router here, and the skill is router installation. Skill level is 70. So anybody who's less than 70 cannot be assigned to this appointment. That's one of the good things here. There are timings here, so you cannot have any of these works have an appointment outside of these windows. We'll see how that window works, or where that window comes into picture. But yes, you're basically packaging the required products, skills, the time, everything on the work type, and making it easier for the agent, the support agent, to use it when they actually start doing the actual intake or talking to the customer and things like that. Okay, so we have created a work type, we have set the basic hours and resources. Let's now go log in or switch roles without actually switching anything as a support agent. For that, the first thing we do is service console. Why service console? Because support agents are, as you all know, I mean, they are not special for this FSL. They're actually working in combination with the service cloud application as well, where they are using some case object properties and things like those. And they're the ones who are talking to customers already, right? So that's why I say for agents, you would need lesser features. But yes, you will still see how FSL objects are being introduced to an agent. Let's start with creating a new case. This is for account name Altalk, and we're saying, okay, Rose is the contact there, origin, phone. Anything else required? We are using minimalistic data to focus on the key areas. And all right, so we've got the case created. Well, maybe I'm talking to the customer, and as you see, so the data model is, as well as we talked about work order being a child of case. So we can quickly create a new work order for this case, preset information, and this is where FSL kicks in, or the work type that we defined, or the work type our admin has defined, is coming in handy here, because we're using that work type here, and we'll see how it's going to make my job easier as an agent. We've chosen this, save, nothing more, nothing less. And what we expect is whatever skills, the duration, the parts that we talked about are all linked here. Let's see if they're linked or not. Right now, this is the basic information. Let's go to the related section of the work order. There it is. We on the work type, we define that, as an admin, we define that we need one router for this one. We need this skill with this percentage or this number. Anything beyond 70 is good for this appointment or this work order to be worked upon. Yes, there are some other elements which we will use. You might have seen we talked about products consumed, and that's something which our agent is going to request or update when they start working on it. All right, so this is automatically done, but if you also noticed, service appointment is automatically created, because on the work type there was a checkbox that we checked saying automatically create service appointment. Let's look at the service appointment. I'm still probably on the call with this customer, and without knowing any technicalities of this job, I already know as an agent that this is going to need 60 minutes. The skill level is 70% or more, so I know that it's slightly complex. It's in a higher category of complexity, not the lower one. It needs one product, and you can set the expectation right for the customer as an agent, if you're talking about these elements that are available. Once you have these, I think it's all set. So as an agent, my job's done. No, my job's not done yet. Hold on. We also have to look at, take the appointment of the customer. So you want to set this up for, let's say, 9th of July, or maybe 10th of July. And say the job's gonna. We want to schedule it for 10:30, but it's the arrival window that we're setting. Maybe the customer is saying you can come after anytime after 9:30, or you say 10:30, but we will take a buffer of an hour there, and we put an hour there to reach, an hour's window to reach. So 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. is when they would probably reach there, and the schedule time is probably the more important one, where you say, okay, you're going to start the actual work at 10:30 and finish by 11:30. How do I know that? Because I see that it's 60 minutes. This is coming from the work type that we selected, right? The actuals are going to fill in by the agent when they start working on it. So this is the most important one for you. Yes, there are some preset information. These are coming from the admin settings. So there are some settings on the screen on the left hand side as well of, okay, the due date is defaulted to 7 days from the created date, which is this, or 5 days from the created date. I don't know what we said there, but yes, that's why they're coming automatically. Once you've done that, the service appointment is ready. What next? It needs to go to the field agent now. So as an agent, I've done my work. I'll probably say thank you, cut the call. Now switch roles to a dispatcher. How do I do that? Now we go back to another specialist application of this field service, which is field service. And wait, it's switching the roles. All right. You still see these tabs, don't worry about them. I'm an admin. But this is what we focus on, field service. This is the differentiating. If you see the field service and field service admin, on the admin application it was field service settings, now it's called field service, and it will be a dispatcher console that is expected to load very soon. There it is. John Cena is our resource, as you would have noticed, for this territory. It's scheduled for 9th of July, 8th of July. We want to give him something on 10th of July. We just now created an appointment. As a dispatcher, I want to, there's a list view here. I filtered on to do. If I filter on all, you'd probably see everything, different statuses and corresponding colors to identify, because you can read the statuses here, but when you put it on Gantt view, the colors are very helpful. So let me go back to the to-dos as a dispatcher. I'm saying, okay, all of these are just lying down there. The one which we created is probably this SA0029, which we just created. Before we go into the further details, just a quick view here. You see only one agent here, but in normal cases, you would see all the list of people there. You can search through them. You can also see what's their current location. Okay, what's happening? Okay, the current location is not there. I don't know why it's not there. He's nowhere on this earth. Fantastic. Fine, maybe it's some address not being set right for this guy John Cena. All right, so that's also showing some utilization of this person. So yeah, as a dispatcher, I have a view of the manpower available and the times, their availabilities, everything. So let's look at this 29, which we just created. There are a bunch of options here. We would want to focus on candidates. Let's click on candidates to just give you a sneak peek of the smartness. And as you can see, it looked for all the people who have more skill than skill percentage more than 70, right? Or you can just click on this and assign it, or you say hide, just click on schedule, and we expect it to show up on the calendar as expected. So that's his break time. We put it on 9:30. We put it for 9:30 scheduled, and as you can see, it's the arrival start and arrival end that is being shown here. And there's also an earliest start permission which is being displayed there. So once you do that, now let's just move to schedule. I'll probably have to, you can either do this right hand, when do a right click and dispatch it, or you could go to, scheduled ones, which is this one, and select it to dispatch it. I mean, it's up to you how you want to dispatch. There's so many options here. Click on dispatch, color changes. So that's why, like I said, colors give a faster view and save their time in terms of, and the utilization is 19% in terms of how much time they have. If we try to assign this outside of these working hours or with an overlap of this break time that they have, you would have issues. So make sure that the timings that you're giving are in line with the calendars and everything that is set up. All right. So now that we have set up as a dispatcher, I think my job's done. There's a lot more that we can do. Like I said, I could, yeah, there it is. Okay. Now I can see it. So maybe there was some problem. The dispatcher is right now in India. Somewhere in, okay, he's somewhere. Some address. Oh, he's in Hyderabad. Cool. So the address given is working. Okay, somewhere near high tech city. What doesn't matter. So he's there right now, and I can see that and see a lot of other options here. The daily view, the monthly or the weekly view. Okay, fine. It's not working. All right, so that's done. Now the last role or the last persona is how is this going to come up on mobile, and this is probably the most tricky or interesting part for anybody, because setting this up on mobile, you also have to make sure the right permission sets are assigned. You have to install one application from the Google Store or App Store, Play Store or App Store, and then log in as that particular John Cena to see how it's going to look like. So let's switch to the mobile version and see how that is going to look like. All right, so here's how the mobile looks like. Let's look. So I'm kind of using the simulator. If you see this calendar, you will notice that there are tiny dots which tells the field agent that there are jobs or appointments on those dates. So let's say we open 10th July because we created just now, as you would have, we just now created one for 10th of July, 9:30 in the morning. And that's what you see is 29, it's dispatched. You see the schedule, you can see the inventory, you can see your own profile. That's the product required. Right now it's shipment, it's submitted. Okay, so there are not enough products in our inventory, never mind. Click open the service appointment because that's where you open the work order. So when you click on the service appointment, you can see that there is this detail of the order. Then you can also see the consumed ones, which as an agent I'm supposed to add. Once I start working on it, there are all the other details of work order here, the installation, everything that we set on this, the case number, the account, the customer information. There's also feed, which can be used this is basically the chapter that is enabled on the FSL app, which can be used to collaborate with other agents or the backend team or managers or anybody, so you have, so right now again, I've given more permissions. That's why you see, like I've almost given a admin permission here, but otherwise you would not have all the actions available for them. All the bunch of related lists, again, some of the admin ones are making sure that these are being displayed here. Going back to overview, you can see, okay, hold on. The service report. So once when we go to the completion, maybe let's go to the completion. So uh, we don't have all the products available. So you see these products required are missing. I think I just consumed it from the previous demo. But yeah, this is the required one. You consume a product, but I've not yet consumed one. So for easiness sake, I think the idea here is to show you how the mobile version looks like and works like. And for that sake, you see these are the options, the feed. The knowledge is not enabled here. So from the overview or from the details, let's say we want to just close it, finish the work order. You can go to the edit work order and say completed. Mind you, I'm still logged in as admin, so I see a lot of things here. Normally, I may not be finishing them. So, or maybe actually I show you that option. I come back to this overview and I want to show you how we can create a report, because that's the, this is an important one, the service report. You create a service report, and if you remember the template that we talked about, you can see a preview of that, a PDF preview with all the details. Of course, it's zero cost because you've not done any work. At the bottom, there's a customer signature that we need to take. And there's this option to get the detailed signature. So let's click on that. Say sign and confirm, and I can just go ahead. Save. Done. Generate report. So this is how they obviously would work with people to take it to closure, but once it's done, I think the report is the important one, and we have seen how the report works. What else? Yeah, so that's pretty much it on the mobile side. Yeah, we've not taken it to completion, but if we change the status, again going back to the actions, we can request for new product. As you can see, we can request for new product. We can change the status. So let's click on change status, and we can change the status to completed. Save. It's asking me for a bunch of other information which I don't have, unfortunately, at this moment. So let's try to put this to closed and see if this one works. There you go. The status of the work order is completed. The service appointment is still open because we still have to fill a lot of other information. But that pretty much gives us the idea of how it looks on the mobile, how you can navigate. Another quick thing which I want to show you is the map part here. So when you see this map, that's my current location, and you can also navigate to this. Let me show you the actions. Okay, hold on a moment, because there is an option to navigate to the client's address. Well, I can't find it, but yeah, if you see it here on the map, you can actually see that. See your location, the client's location. I think it's the address of the client. Yeah, that's the reason why we've not given a good address of the customer here, why it does not show up on the calendar. But yes, once you put the right one, it will show you there. And you can just tap on it to start following the directions using the Google Maps. With that, thank you all for your time. I hope you found this session and the content useful. Uh, if you have any more questions, feel free to write back to me. Roshan Kotla is how you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Quite active on Twitter as well. If you have more questions, you can also reach out to Apex Hours. Uh, Towards the end, I will again want to thank Amit and Apex Hours channel for having me here and giving us the opportunity to share our knowledge. Hope you all found it useful. Have a good rest of the day and good weekend. Thank you and bye bye.